their former home.
No matter how much they try to portray themselves as pseudo-royals. And I think you can see quite clearly on the part of the Duke of Sussex an attempt to try to open up an avenue to return to the fold.
Charles has made it very clear that he wants Harry back. You know, we saw it in Harry's book. Don't make my life a misery, but don't make my final years a misery, boys.
Prince Harry thought the door back to Britain might still be open, but now that door is not just closing, it is being slammed shut in front of the whole world. Because while some people are trying to sell the idea that Harry could slowly return to the royal fold, the reality looks far more brutal. The palace is moving on, the public is pushing back, and Prince William may have already made the final decision. This is not just about one family argument anymore. This is about Frogmore Cottage being stripped of its Sussex past, royalists demanding the monarchy stop giving Harry second chances, and a growing belief that any betrayal by the people who stayed loyal to the crown. And the most dangerous part for Harry is not even King Charles. Charles may still want peace with his son, but William is the wall Harry, because if the future king has decided never again, comeback may already be dead before it begins. So now the question is simple. Is Harry trying to find a way back home, or has the royal family finally erased the last path he had left? The reason Prince Harry's returning is not because one palace door closed. It is because every door around him seems to be closing at the same time. 4 years, the public kept hearing whispers that maybe one day Harry would find a way back, maybe one day King Charles would soften everything, maybe one day the royal family would decide blood is stronger than betrayal. But now the mood around the monarchy feels completely different. This is no longer about a son simply missing home. This is about a prince who walked away, built a new life, burned bridges in public, and now may be discovering that the road back to the palace was never guaranteed. And the clearest symbol of that collapse is Frogmore Cottage. Because Frogmore was never just a house. It was the place tied to Harry and Meghan's royal beginning, the place connected to their wedding chapter, their Windsor dream, and the short period when they were still officially inside the royal world. So when people hear that the property is being changed, stripped, reversed, or prepared for a future that has nothing to do with the Sussexes, the message feels bigger than bricks, walls, and rooms. It feels like the monarchy is quietly saying, that chapter is over. That is what makes this story so brutal for Harry. The palace does not need to release an angry statement. It does not need to hold a dramatic press conference. It does not need to tell the world that Harry's old life is being erased. It can simply move on without him. And sometimes that is more painful than public rejection. Public rejection gives you someone to fight. Quiet erasure gives you nothing to hold on to. You can continue without your name attached to the place you once called home. And that is why royalists are reacting so strongly. A lot of them are not looking at Harry as a lost prince anymore. They are looking at him as someone who made a choice, left the working royal system, criticized the institution, accepted global attention from his royal connection, and now still appears to want certain benefits of the same world he walked away from. To them, this is not reconciliation. This is a test of whether the monarchy has learned anything from the last few years. That is the real revolt. It is not only people saying they dislike Harry. It is deeper than that, saying they do not want the crown to reward someone who they believe damaged it. They do not want taxpayer-funded protection for someone who is not a working royal. They do not want official roles quietly returned. They do not want a soft comeback wrapped in emotional language. They want consequences. They want a clean line. They want the palace to show that duty still matters more than celebrity. And that is where Prince William becomes the most important figure in the story. Because King Charles may still feel like a father first. Charles may still want peace before his reign ends. Charles may still want to believe that Harry can come back in some limited way without destroying the family again. But William does not appear to be looking at this as an emotional father-son wound. William is looking at the future of the monarchy.
And, of course, there was a lot of criticism about what Harry and Meghan, let's say, did. A room, a 5,000-pound copper tub, and all these sorts of things, because Soho House, of course, was involved. I still am absolutely flummoxed by Meghan Markle's obsession with Soho House. I feel like I need to stay there one time, and maybe, just maybe, I will understand, but I doubt it. It's just a place to lay your head, I guess, and hang out. And then obviously Harry and Meghan.
And from that point of view, Harry is not just a brother who left. Harry is a risk. That is why the words William said never hit so hard. They are not just dramatic. They explain the whole power struggle. Charles may dream of reconciliation, but William represents the monarchy that comes next. Charles can open a door emotionally, but William can shut it strategically. And if William believes Harry cannot be trusted with access, influence, or royal proximity, then Harry's path back becomes almost impossible. Because the future king does not have to scream. He only has to refuse. And that refusal carries more weight now than ever. The monarchy is shifting toward William. People can feel it. Charles is king, but William is the future. Every major decision is already being viewed through the question of what kind of monarchy William will inherit. So if William has decided Harry should remain outside the royal structure, that is not just a personal grudge. It becomes a warning about the future shape of the crown. Harry may want to reconnect with his father, but he cannot rebuild a royal future if the next king has already decided the door is closed. That is the trap Harry is caught in. If he reaches out to Charles, critics say he is using his father's softness. If he asks for security, royalists say he wants benefits without duty. If he visits Britain, people ask whether he is trying to enter the royal orbit. If he stays in California, people say his royal relevance is fading. Every move comes with a backlash because the public does not view him through sympathy alone anymore. They view him through memory. And the British public has not forgotten. They have not forgotten the interviews. They have not forgotten the accusations. They have not forgotten the book. They have not forgotten the way private family pain was turned into global content. They have not forgotten the way Harry and Meghan presented themselves as victims of the same institution that gave them status, titles, homes, protection, and global. So when the idea of Harry returning starts floating around, many royalists do not hear family healing. They hear rewarding betrayal. That is why the comeback narrative is collapsing before it can even stand up. It is not enough for Harry to want to return. The monarchy has to. want it. The public has to accept it. William has to tolerate it. The institution has to survive it. And right now, every one of those points looks difficult. Harry may still be royal by birth, but being royal by birth is not the same thing as being trusted by the royal machine. And trust is the one thing Harry may no longer have. That is the part that makes this story bigger than Frogmore. A house can be renovated. A title can remain on paper. A visit can be arranged. A father can miss his son. But trust is different. Once the palace believes private conversations can become public, once the family believes emotional moments can become material, once the institution believes access can be used against it, there is no simple way back. You cannot just apologize your way into the same room and expect everyone to forget how the That is why William's position matters so much. William is not only protecting himself. He is protecting Catherine, his children, and the future monarchy. From his perspective, letting Harry back in is not a sentimental gesture. It is opening the gates to someone who may again bring chaos, leaks, commentary, or public pressure. And William's entire job now is to prepare for a reign where stability matters. He cannot build that future around uncertainty. This is where Charles and William may see the same situation completely differently. Charles sees a son. William sees a liability. Charles sees pain. William sees pattern. Charles may want to end his final years with peace. William may want to make sure his own reign does not begin with another Sussex storm. And if those two visions collide, the emotional father may not win against the future king. That is the hidden drama behind Harry's collapse. It is not just Harry against the press. It is not just Harry against royalists. It is Harry against the future direction of the monarchy. And if the monarchy has decided that the Sussex chapter needs to be minimized, controlled, or erased, then Harry is fighting something much bigger than one argument. Frogmore is the perfect symbol because it represents the physical version of that erasure. Once upon a time, it stood as Harry and Meghan's royal base. Now, it appears to be moving into a different purpose, a different identity, a different future. That is why people keep focusing on it. They sense that the house is telling a story the palace will not say out loud. A road to the Sussex dream is being stripped of that meaning. And when the home goes, the fantasy of an easy return goes with it. For Harry, that has to sting. Because Frogmore was not only about where he slept. It was about belonging. It meant there was still a place for him on royal land. Still a physical connection to Windsor. Still a door that linked his California life to the world he left behind. Losing that symbol means the return becomes less real. It means Britain becomes somewhere he visits, not somewhere he belongs inside the royal system. And royalists want that message to be permanent. They do not want Harry drifting between California celebrity life and royal privilege whenever convenient. They do not want him using royal identity when it helps business and when it brings accountability. They want the palace to stop giving him emotional escape routes. Harry made a choice. Now they want the monarchy to make one too. That is where the security battle becomes the master key. Because security is not just security in this story. Security is access. Security is mobility. Security is the ability to come and go with royal-level protection. Security visits easier. Security is what makes a partial return return feel possible. So when royalists push back against taxpayer-funded protection, they are not only arguing about money. They are arguing about whether Harry should have a practical path back into royal life. Deny the security, and the comeback becomes harder. Deny the house, and the comeback becomes colder. Deny William's blessing, and the comeback becomes almost impossible. That is why this story feels like several walls closing in at once. Harry may be able to fight one obstacle, but can he fight all of them at the same time? And then there is Meghan. Because any conversation about Harry returning to Britain eventually runs into the question of whether Meghan wants that life at all. Harry's emotional pull toward the UK may never fully disappear. Britain is his birthplace. The monarchy shaped his identity. His father is king. His brother is the future king. His mother's memory is tied to that country. No matter how far he goes, a part of his story will always point back to Britain. But Meghan's story points in the opposite direction. Her power, her brand, her comfort, and her public reinvention are all tied to distance from the royal system. She has built her post-royal identity around independence, California, media, business, and personal image. So if Harry wants reconnection and Meghan wants distance, that creates a fault line inside their own future. And that fault line makes the royal return even more complicated, because Harry cannot return alone without triggering questions. If he goes back without Meghan, people will say the marriage is strained. If he takes Meghan, royalists will revolt even harder. If he brings the children, the public debate becomes emotional and explosive. If he keeps the children away, critics will say he is disconnected from the family he claims to miss. No matter what he does, the reaction is dangerous. That is why the idea of a simple summer return feels almost impossible. A trip to Britain is not just a trip anymore. It becomes a political event, a family test, a media
began to draw attention among Argentine fans, not because of a provocative phrase or a scandalous statement, but quite the opposite, because of the
deserves access. Every handshake is analyzed. Every meeting is judged. Every absence becomes a headline. Every security arrangement becomes a scandal. That is not a peaceful family reunion. That is a battlefield. And William knows that. That may be exactly why he is reportedly firm. He understands that Harry's presence does not stay small. It becomes a circus. It becomes global coverage. It becomes speculation about reconciliation. It becomes pressure on Catherine. It becomes questions about the children. It becomes another round of headlines the monarchy does not need. So from William's perspective, the cleanest solution may be the harshest one. No return to the royal fold, no official role, no open door, no confusion. conclusion. That is brutal, but it is also strategic. William is trying to protect the future from being dragged back into the past. And Harry is part of that past now. Not because he is irrelevant, but he belongs to the rupture. He represents the split, the interviews, the accusations, the American chapter, the public family wounds. William cannot build a modern monarchy if that wound keeps reopening every few months. This is why royalists are increasingly aligning with William. They may respect Charles as king, but many of them trust William's harder line more when it comes to Harry. They believe Charles is too emotional. He wants reconciliation because he is a father, not because it is good for the crown. They believe William sees the danger more clearly. And that makes William the symbol of resistance against Harry's comeback. That public alignment matters. Because the monarchy survives on public consent, not just bloodline. If loyal royal watchers begin saying they would turn against the crown if Harry is given an official route back, that is a serious warning. It means the palace cannot quietly restore him without risking the very audience that still supports the institution. And if the choice becomes Harry's comfort or royalist loyalty, William may already know which side the monarchy has to choose. That is facing not one headline, not one palace insult, full collapse of the comeback environment. The house is gone. The public is hostile. William is firm. Security is contested. Meghan may not want the same future. The brand outside the palace is under pressure. And the old royal connection that once made Harry and Meghan valuable is no longer as accessible as it was. That last part is important. Harry and Meghan's entire post-royal power depended on proximity to the monarchy. They could criticize it because they came from it. They could sell stories because people believed they had access. They could brand themselves as modern royals because the royal connection was still fresh. But as time passes, and as the palace removes symbols like Frogmore, that proximity fades. Without proximity, their market value changes. Without access, their commentary loses heat. Without a visible path back, the Sussex brand becomes more distant from the royal world that made it famous. That may be why the return rumors matter so much. A return, even a soft one, would refresh relevance. It would put Harry back near the center. It would make Meghan and the children part of royal conversation again. It would create new images, new speculation, new value. But if William blocks that, if royalists revolt, and if the palace keeps moving on, then the Sussexes remain outside looking in. And that outside position becomes colder every year. This is why the story has such strong emotional pull. It is not just political. It is almost tragic. Harry wanted freedom, but freedom came with distance. He wanted independence, but independence came with bills, brands, and a need to remain relevant. He wanted to escape the royal machine, but the royal machine was also what gave him global importance. Now he may want some version of family, but the family may no longer trust the version of Harry that returns. And the harshest part is that the public is not giving him the emotional soft landing he may have expected. Many people are not saying, "Poor Harry wants his father." They are saying, "Harry chose this." They are not saying, "Let him come home." They are saying, "He left." They are not saying, "Give him protection." They are saying, he is not a working royal. That tone shift is everything. Once sympathy turns into resistance, the comeback becomes almost impossible. That is why the phrase royalists revolt works so well. It captures the mood. These are not anti-monarchy voices demanding Harry stay out. These are monarchy supporters. These are people who want the crown to survive, and they are saying Harry's return would damage it. That is far more dangerous than criticism from people who dislike the royals anyway. When your own supporters warn you not to bring someone back, you have a serious problem. And William appears to understand that better than anyone. He knows the future monarchy cannot keep bending around Harry's emotions. He knows the public has limits.
1, 2, 3.
He knows Catherine and the children must be protected from another wave of
So like that? Is that cool?
drama.
Let's do it one more
He
time.
knows the crown cannot reach duty while rewarding someone who rejected it.
But I have to just
And he knows
say,
that
anyone who has
if
some
he is
humble pie
Who does
going to
this?
be
Recognize excellent?
one
Kind of like,
day,
need to are removed.
cannot inherit
you know,
a system
Have now said
still
the
hostage
costs, even when there's bad behavior
the
involved.
Sussex
three
fallout. So when people say William said never, they are really saying William has drawn the line that Charles may be too soft to draw. William is the door. William is the lock. William is the future. And if Harry cannot get past William, then no amount of emotional messaging, summer plans, or reconciliation room can save the comeback. That is the final wall Harry cannot climb, because Charles may forgive as a father. The public may soften in small moments. The media may push a return narrative. Harry may keep talking about family, but William does not have to accept him back. And in the long run, William's decision matters more than Charles's emotion. Charles's reign is the present. William's reign is the future. Harry is trying to return to a house whose next owner may already have banned him from the door. That is what makes this story so powerful. It is not just about whether Harry comes to Britain. It is about whether the royal family still sees him as family inside the institution or family outside of it. There is a difference. They may always be related by blood, but blood does not automatically restore trust. Blood does not erase public betrayal. Blood does not rebuild Frogmore. Blood does not convince royalists to pay for security. blood does not make William forget what he believes Harry did to the family. And that is why Harry's return is collapsing in real time. Every symbol is turning against him. The home is being stripped of Sussex meaning. The public is pushing back. William is standing firm. The royal machine is moving on. And Harry is left facing the reality that leaving the monarchy was a decision, but returning may not be his decision to make. So the real question is not whether Harry wants back in. The real question is whether anyone with power inside the future monarchy wants him back. And right now, the answer looks colder than ever. If Charles is the last emotional bridge, William is the first locked gate. If Frogmore was the last physical link,
royal
its erasure
biographers
feels like the final
have now said the same.
If royalists were Harry, their revolt shows that patience is running out. If Harry believed time would soften everything, he may be learning that time can also harden institutions and harden the public against a comeback they no longer want. That is the collapse. Not a single dramatic moment. Not one final palace announcement. A slow, brutal closing of every path Harry thought he still had. And the most painful part is that the royal family does not have to chase him away anymore. They only have to keep walking forward without him.
Just the destruction of their former home.
They try to portray themselves as pseudo-royals, quite clearly on the part of the Duke of Sussex, to try to open up the fold.
Charles has made it very clear that he wants Harry back. You know, we saw it in Harry's book. Don't make my life a misery, but don't make my final years a misery, boys.
Prince Harry thought the door back to Britain might still be open. But while some people are, Harry could slowly return to the royal fold.